It is 1 p.m. in Damascus. It's 8 p.m. in Pyongyang in North Korea. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is CNN, the world's news leader, and this is World One, live from London. But first, the UN could be poised to issue its strongest condemnation of the Syrian government to date. Syrian government forces have continued their onslaught against the opposition. Activists say one person has been killed today in the southern town of Daraa, and at least 32 people are said to have died across Syria on Wednesday. Well, at the UN, delegates are expected to vote on a draft resolution later today. The latest proposals will go before the 193 member states of the General Assembly. The text condemns the Syrian government's attack on dissent. It calls on President Bashar al-Assad's regime to end human rights violations and stop indiscriminate attacks on civilians. If it does pass, it'll be the international community's strongest condemnation to date, but it still won't be legally binding. Meanwhile, China has also announced that it is sending a senior diplomat to Damascus to try to help end the conflict. Well, Syrian government forces unleashed more fire on the city of Homs on Wednesday. People in the city, worn down by relentless shelling, described desperate scenes. The government has barred most journalists from entering Syria, but CNN's Arwa Damon is there, and this is what she saw in Homs.
The bombardment at some points was so intense that buildings were shaking, glass was shattering.
We've been talking a lot about the various cities and towns that have come under attack there in Syria, but we want to illustrate for you exactly what we're talking. It gives you a better idea of exactly what we're talking about. Let's begin here in Damascus, which is President al-Assad's seat of power. He's used the capital to stage mass rallies in support of his government, but recent fighting in the suburbs has brought the uprising close to his stronghold. We take you next up to the ancient city of Homs, which was at one point a commercial hub with a population of 1 million, including Shia, Sunni and Alawite Muslims, as well as Christians. It is now the focus of a merciless attack on dissent that has left hundreds dead. We then go to Hama here, and tanks were said to be rolling into the city on Wednesday. If that is indeed true, it wouldn't be the first time. 30 years ago, a Sunni-led uprising was crushed on the orders of the current president's father, Hafez al-Assad. Up to 20,000 people were slaughtered. We head up north a little bit more to Idlib there, which has seen fierce fighting, but it could also be a hub for the armed opposition due to its proximity to the Free Syrian Army's base across the border in Turkey. And then finally, we take you to the city of Aleppo, Syria's second city and considered a power base for the regime. It had been relatively calm, but on Saturday, 2 explosions killed 28 people. Syrian state media said terrorists were to blame. We want to see what newspapers around the world are saying about this. The headline in the International Herald Tribune is Hama rules. The editorial says the more the Syrian opposition demonstrates to itself, to all Syrians and to the world that it is about creating a pluralistic Syria, the weaker Assad will be and the more likely that a post-Assad Syria will have a chance at stability and decency. In the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf News has an opinion piece with this headline, breaking the Syrian deadlock. It says, sadly, because Damascus refuses the League UN plan and to avoid a full-pledged civil war, the last available option might well be an Arab League NATO operation. Obviously, Damascus will put up stiff resistance, though. Syrians will probably live to rebuild their shattered country. And finally, the China Daily's headline is respect for different viewpoints. It's a common piece that says the international community should give Russia and China more time for mediation rather than forcing a hurried vote in the UN Security Council, which has only escalated the crisis. Remember, you can read all those. North Korea on Thursday marked the 70th birthday of its late leader, Kim Jong-il. The government staged a massive parade in the capital city, Pyongyang. Soldiers pledged allegiance to Kim Jong-il's son and successor, Kim Jong-un. Are not only a chance to revere Kim Jong-il, but also an effort to boost loyalty to the dynasty that has ruled for more than 60 years. Paula Hancock joins us now from Seoul, the South Korean capital, with more on the, I guess you could call them celebrations. Paula?
That's right, Monita. What we saw this Thursday was a highly choreographed military parade. There wasn't...
Paula Hancock's there in Seoul. You're watching World One live from London. The government says it's done everything asked of it to meet the conditions for a new emergency bailout. But Eurozone ministers still want more guarantees. Athens will stick to the terms of any new aid. Greece agreed on Wednesday to new budget cuts worth over $400 million, finally meeting the target set by the EU in the past. Now, it all comes just a day after Germany and Greece traded barbs. German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble said on Wednesday he wanted to help Greece, but would not pour money into what he's saying is a bottomless pit. The president of Greece, Karolus Papoulias, shot back, saying, I don't accept having my country taunted by Mr. Schäuble, who is Mr. Schäuble to ridicule Greece. Now, anti-German sentiment has been notable among protesters in Athens recently. Some people burned German flags, and less than 5 weeks to secure more bailout cash or face bankruptcy. Nina Dos Santos has been covering the story from us here in London. She joins us here in the studio. So the Greeks are almost resigned to the fact that, or everyone seems to be resigned to the fact that they might be facing, that they are going to be facing a default, and even the Greeks seem to be agreeing with that.
Well, we already know, Monita, that we're going to have some kind of selective or controlled default, because what we're going to have is the private sector creditors who own Greek bonds having to take that famous haircut on their debts.
Dos Santos from World Business Today, thank you so much. Well, protesters in Greece have been telling their leaders the country cannot take any more austerity. Meti Panagiotopoulou trained as a lawyer, but now she's one of the rapidly growing number of people in Athens looking for work. She joins us now from Athens. Meti, thank you very much for being with us. What has this done to you? How has this made you feel as you watched the ministers and the government squabble it out?
Well, it has a great impact on our psychology and our everyday life.
For speaking to us here on W1, we appreciate your thoughts, and of course we do wish you all the very best in your search for work, and I guess everyone hopes that something good will come out of all this pain that everyone seems to be feeling there in Athens. We'll be right back here on World One. Clearer picture is emerging of the days leading up to Whitney Houston's death. A source who was briefed on her behavior told CNN that the singer had been seen drinking by the pool before 10 a.m. 2 mornings in a row. Well, Susan Candiotti is in Newark in New Jersey, where Houston's body is being prepared for her funeral. She joins us now with the latest on the investigation into her final days. And these are pretty stark revelations, if they are indeed true, into the days leading up to her death.
That's right, and it's important that the coroner look into all of her, all the steps that she took before her.
Prison conditions in Latin America are once again in the spotlight after this week's deadly fire at a jail in Honduras. Authorities are looking into whether a short circuit sparked the fire or if a prisoner set a mattress alight. As CNN's Rafael Romo reports, more than 300 inmates died in the blaze, which was one of the worst tragedies of its kind in decades.
One by one, the inmates are rescued. Some can barely walk.
Now, as we mentioned, China says it will send a senior diplomat to Syria this week to try to help negotiate an end to the violence. At least 32 people are said to have died across Syria on Wednesday. CNN's Ivan Watson joins us now from northern Syria. We cannot give his exact location for safety reasons. Ivan, what are you seeing?
Well, what we see here is the countryside in this stretch of northern Syria in open revolt. Teachers, math teachers, as we have traveled through this region, we have seen absolutely no presence.
Okay. Ivan, thank you. Ivan Watson there in northern Syria. Stay safe. We appreciate you being with us here on the show. Well, police in Thailand say a group at the center of a bomb incident in Bangkok on Tuesday were targeting Israeli diplomats. The announcement has further inflamed an ongoing argument between Israel and Iran about a string of explosions in Thailand, in India, and in Georgia. Sarkozy starts his campaign for re-election today, almost 2 months before voting starts in the French presidential election. The president announced his plans to run for a second term on French television Wednesday night. The first round of voting gets underway April 22nd. CNN senior international correspondent Jim Bitterman joins us now from Paris with more on that. I guess I wonder if there was to be elections had today, according to opinion polls, Nicolas Sarkozy wouldn't necessarily do very well. This is World One, live from London. Arsenal's Champions League dreams have been as good as shattered, they say. The Gunners suffered a heavy defeat in Italy Wednesday night. Pedro Pinto's here with all the, I guess, sad details for Gunners fans.
Yeah, they say. Who's they?
I don't know. They, the proverbial they.
Okay, I'll tell you about it. It was really a case of men against boys at the San Siro last night as Milan comprehensively insight for you.
And that's why I don't do world sport.
Great insight from Monita. By the way, we were promoting the new edition of Aiming for Gold to talk about all the Olympic. That's why I do just world sport, yes.
That's fine. Pedro, thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. You are watching World One, live from London. Balancing act. This man has a very unusual childhood dream. You are watching World One. Here are some of the stories that we're talking about. Valentine's Day has been and gone, leaving behind wilting roses, empty chocolate boxes, and criminal charges. If you're wondering what that last one is all about, it is the legacy of a kinky sex game that went tad wrong. A couple in Portland, Oregon ended up in court after a young woman was seen naked, bound, and gagged in the back of a car. And when the police were called in, the pair said it was all just sexual role play. They were charged with disorderly conduct. Staying with the strange Valentine's Day theme, we go to Las Vegas, where nothing says romance like a bullet-riddled wall. The Mob Museum opened its doors on February 14th. One of the star attractions, the wall that was strafed by gunfire at Chicago's infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre. Las Vegas and the mob go way back, and the new museum says it wants to show, quote, both sides of the story. Now, to most people, it seems like or it sounds like a nightmare, but to Nick Walenda, it's a childhood dream come true. Canada has agreed to let the daredevil walk across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. He says he'll be the first person ever to cross directly above the falls since past attempts were made further down the gorge. Let's get you up to date now with the weather. More snow is blanketing Europe, and it is still bitterly cold. Meteorologist Mari Ramos is at the World Weather Center with those details. Mari.
Hey, Monita. You know what? Yeah, it's still in some cases we're still looking at temperatures that are well below the average across the region. And, you know, with this.
Thanks, Mari. Appreciate that. You're watching World One, live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. We'll update you of the news headlines at the top of the hour right here on CNN.